to the UFOcast, episode 26, covering the long sleep. My name's Michael.
And my name's Luke.
And this will be the end of the UFOcast. Well, the end of our reviews of the episodes anyway. We might come back and do the odd little thing, but this is the end of our reviews of all of the episodes.
Yes.
It's been a long journey.
Yes, as we said last time, we were supposed to take a year, releasing one a fortnight, and we kept that up for quite a while, and then it all started to go a bit wrong. And then we got to like episode 20, I think, and then had a massive break of several months. Basically, because life got a bit busy for both of us, I think. I know. Life,
who I can take it or leave it, to be honest. Well, you've got no choice but to take it for a bit.
Yes.
Let's not get melancholy and move on. No, seriously, we've got our last ever UFOcast, and it's talking about the long sleep. And as you pointed out in a text, it's not the most elegant of stories, but it is the last one, so that's fine. It's not exactly a high point to go out on.
I wouldn't say it's a completely low point either, though.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah, it's good. The aliens have got plans. So the shadow operatives have to stop them. It's basically it's something to do with the central characters' lives. You know, it ticks all the usual boxes. So that's good. Shall we start with our traditional terrible synopsis?
I am so looking forward to seeing what your terrible synopsis for this episode is.
Right. A girl named Catherine begins to recover from a 10-year-long coma, originally caused by a road accident in which Straker was involved. She begins to recall events just prior to the accident and tells them to the men from Shadow, a man called Tim, an encounter with aliens, a bomb buried in a farmhouse. Suddenly, the 10-year-old mystery attains new urgency when it's discovered that the man, Tim, is alive and under alien control. He is planning to find the farm and explode the deadly bomb, as opposed to those undeadly bombs, and he must be stopped.
No mention of drugs.
None. None at all. And I think this is the synopsis that was sold to Jerry Anderson.
Yes, because apparently he had no idea that this was a druggy episode, which I find very hard to believe.
Yeah.
He must have been taking his eye massively off the ball at this point.
Well, was his eye on the next series? Because
you mean the next series of UFO?
Well, no, also possibly the next series of UFO or the next series along, the Protectors.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what the timeline of production is on these things as to when they were going on to the Protectors. But yes, you do wonder. So what do you think overall, Michael, of the long sleep?
Well, like you said, it's all right. I'll tell you what. This is people have this thing about hang on, right? Getting back to our Doctor Who roots. Here we go. The silence,
just to annoy all the pure Jerry Anderson fans.
Just to annoy all the Jerry Andersons. Well, we're going to be true to ourselves here. The silence. Creatures, aliens, who you look at when you're dealing with them, and you look away and you forget them.
Right.
This story, right? You know the bit where they're taking drugs? Because it's silent, I keep thinking, I'll just do something else in the room. I'll just tidy up. And then I realise I'm not watching the TV, so I rewind it. And then the same thing happens again and again. And it's as if the episode itself doesn't want to go into my memory, or doesn't want to be... It doesn't want to exist inside my head. I get the plot, and when I watch it again, I remember all the bits again and again. It was, there's black and white bits, or sepia for the past, because that's, traditional for the memories. And I've got that. And we could film it in the 70s because that's when it's set. I've got all that. That's fine. But when there's the druggy bit with the aliens, my brain just goes, oh, it's fine. Because it's so quiet and the music's so thumpingly repetitive and weird. And then I don't forget that. And then there's the chase bit at the end where they're trying to find the plunger for the bomb. And my brain's just going, I know what's happening here, but I'm just not paying enough attention. And I've actually physically tried to watch it about 5 times. I still don't get how it ends up on a houseboat or why. No, what happens to it after it's on the houseboat. Right? I just don't.
Shall I explain?
Please.
So, she hides the bomb bit in the roof. You got that bit?
Right.
of the farmhouse. They do
Right.
all the song and dance with the aliens. He jumps off the roof.
Got it. And doesn't die.
And when he does, the implication is that he is dead, and that
Right.
they've resuscitated him using energy from her somehow. That's never fully explained. That's just what Dr. Jackson
It's
assumes
a
at the
hand
end.
wavium, yeah.
Yes, and then she eventually wakes up and runs away. And at some point in that running away, I forget what the sequence is, but they do explain it. She throws the thing off the bridge into a houseboat.
Right, I've got that.
And the thing that's... I can just about believe that a houseboat would still be in the same place after 10 years. That's not in itself implausible.
That's the bit where they saw the bit that threw me, because it was a houseboat, but it was actually going under the bridge as I was watching it, as I was perceiving it.
I think
it was on
it's
its
moored
way
there.
somewhere.
No,
Oh,
I think
you
it's.
see.
I think it's. The idea is that the houseboat is moored there. That's where
Right.
it's moored. So that I don't have a problem with. The same houseboat could have the same sort of home base, as it were, 10 years later. But just the idea
Nobody's
that
tidied up for 10 years.
the bit of the bomb is still on board after 10 years, and it just so happens that they're lucky enough that it's the same day. That it's a day on which the guy is moored at his home base and he's not tootling off somewhere else along the canal.
Yeah.
But because they could so easily have had her throw it somewhere else that was more likely to be undisturbed for 10 years. So that just felt like a very odd choice.
If it was me writing it, I would have had some sort of landmark, like a church or a stone circle or something, that she would like doodle or draw, and they would have to find it on a map or something.
Yes. That's a lot more plausible. I mean, it's...
What are your thoughts?
Well, it's not great, because I think it suffers from... Well, okay. So, I think that just the logic of it... particularly how it fits into the rest of the series is a bit weird. In the same way that Destruction was a bit odd, because you were like, okay, as a one-off story of aliens invading Earth, it works. But in the context of the series, why are the aliens trying to destroy all life on Earth? And we talked about that when we reviewed Destruction. And it's sort of the same with this, in that at some point 10 years ago, the aliens planted a bomb, and Straker thinks that they planted a bomb in Turkey somewhere, which caused an earthquake and killed 100,000 people. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But that isn't why the aliens are coming to Earth, primarily. The reason they're coming to Earth is to abduct people. And I don't really see why planting a bomb in Turkey and causing an earthquake that kills 100,000 people is really furthering their aims. And then... Clearly, they only had 2 bombs, because they planted the second one in Britain, lost its detonator, and for some reason were not able to build another one.
Or the other way around. You do the British one first, then they go, oh, that went horribly wrong. Let's go to Turkey and then do it properly.
No, because there's the bit of dialogue that says that her, I think she was run over by Straker 3 days after the Turkey thing.
Right.
I think I'm pretty sure there's a bit of dialogue that explains that Turkey was first. But anyway, and then the aliens forget about it they set up Tim to basically keep tabs on her for as long as it takes for her to wake up.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And then we have... Fast forward however many years until the beginning of UFO. We've just watched all of UFO. There's been all these other alien plots, and then suddenly, because she's woken up, he basically does his mission. And you kind of think, 10 years later, is blowing up England still part of the main objectives that the aliens are pursuing?
Is he just one of those ridiculous sleeper agents who've been given out-of-date commands that kick in? I must assassinate Margaret Thatcher. And what actually happens is, years later, obviously not me, but the sleeper agent who with out-of-date commands who just goes after the assassination of somebody who's no longer in power, that kind of thing.
Yes.
But it's a headcanon-y argument. It's not brilliant.
Yes.
But it could be argued that that's the case.
Yes. And maybe in planting the bomb when they did originally, they were in part trying to act against the proto shadow that was being built at the time. As we know,
makes sense.
1974 shadow wasn't as powerful as it is now. So clearly, this story is supposed to be set in 1984.
Yes,
it's one of those
that is mentioned.
That is mentioned. Yes. But I think if you put all that aside and just go, the story on its own is what it is. I think it does work. As a sort of tense piece of drama.
It's still got some quite problematic bits.
Like what?
Well, right, okay. We'll deal with the drugs, then we'll deal with the attempted rape. Should we do them in that order?
Okay, let's do it in that order, yes.
Okay, right, okay. We've got an argument saying Jerry's on record as saying he had no idea what the storyline was. In the storyline, the guy who is a doctor clearly lies to Catherine, Tim the doctor, ex-doctor, he's got his prescription medication because they're in a nice little plastic bottle, as per the 70s and 80s. Which you just don't see anymore.
Is that how you got drugs, yes. Illegal drugs in those days? In a little
illegal ones. You got legal ones like that.
Yeah.
Right. I remember getting medication in brown plastic bottles with a big fat wide lid, right up to the mid 80s, and they looked just like that. So that was fine.
Right.
Because I was a sickly child and we had pills of go-go around our way. Right. So
right.
Yeah. So there was that. It's like, there she goes, she's hiding it in the roof now. Alien technology is very odd. It just looks like somebody's been to Randy's. Anyway, it's
like a big glow stick, isn't it?
Being the aliens and then going, right, lads, we've got this job to do. Oh, God, there's mental cases just off their faces on drugs. There's a bloke on the roof dressed like Papa Lazo. And he's just give us our stuff back. We're trying to blow up the country. We've got a schedule to keep to here. It's just... They're actually experiencing bad luck, the aliens, on this particular occasion. So, they're off their face on drugs. They've filmed the flashback sequences in black and white so that when they're on drugs, they can do it in strange coloured filters. Which was kind of how you filmed people on drugs in the 70s and 80s.
Yes.
In other films, you see it done very similar to this. So that's fine. It's the way it was done. Because you've got different lenses on cameras for like cat point of view and stuff like that in the series, but on this one it's just different coloured filters. I can see why they did the flashbacks in black and white. It works. It does. But the bit... So, do we accept that when he's just lying when he says they're non-addictive? Because he just wants her off her face.
I think the bit of him not being able to sleep and then pulling at the straw with his hands before he takes them suggests that he might well be lying about the addictive nature of the drug. But it's a moot point, isn't it? Because she's almost immediately in a coma for 10 years and then she's dead. So we never find out whether she would have wanted to take any more.
I was going to say it'll be out of her system by then, wouldn't it? Surely. After 10 years.
Well, no, exactly. That's the yes, that's the point. But as they say, as far as she remembers, it's only yesterday that it happened.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
But yes, anyway, yeah, I take your point.
Right.
Yeah.
So, obviously, hey kids, don't do drugs, because you might see aliens that happen to be real. That'll be just weird.
It's like the opposite of last week. So the opposite of Mindbender. In Mindbender, they see aliens that aren't actually there, and in this week, you see aliens that are there but think that they're just part of your hallucination.
No, yeah.
I suppose the other question is why aren't these aliens carrying guns? Because previously, I think we've always seen aliens carrying guns.
Yeah,
and you'd think they would have just.
No, these must be workmen aliens, where they're just like the Amazon delivery. Of aliens, because they're just bringing it and then they're off. Or perhaps they work for PC World because they are setting up your system for you. That's it. Yeah.
Setting it up badly in the end,
yeah.
it turns out.
Yeah. So, you see, what I like to do is I like to listen to episodes of UFO while I'm in the car before I do my reviews. You can't do that with this one because there's a lot of just music going on. Well, there's a lot of showing, not telling going on, which, it's what we get taught.
What do you think of the music in this episode?
Because yeah, go on. I was just really got much of an opinion.
Well, I quite like it.
Right. Is it not? It's not a recurrence of music that's been anywhere else.
Well, obviously the druggy stuff is clearly very specific to this episode.
Yeah.
And no doubt there is some generic stuff that's a recurrence of stuff, but it feels like there's a lot of fresh bits. But it all feels like it does feel like UFO music.
Yeah.
It's definitely UFO style stuff.
Just getting back to is this the episode that was not shown in lots of areas until much, much later?
Yes.
Right. For this reason.
In fact, I'll have a quick look at what we've got in the Bentley book, because I think it wasn't just this one.
Yeah.
But this one is one of them that was affected. So, for example, so ATV didn't show the responsibility seat.
Yeah.
Which obviously has Straker with by the end of it, Jane Morrow wearing very little clothing.
Right.
So I can understand why they didn't show that one and this one. There was a sort of about 18 months between them finishing the first 24 episodes and then broadcasting those two. And then it's weird. Yeah, there's London didn't broadcast the long sleep in the responsibility seat for about 5 years. Not 5 years, about 3 years after they broadcast the rest of it. So it is a bit
right. And I'm just looking at my notes here as well while we're on. It's not really connected with anything, but Straker knocks down a girl, and there's no mention of him knocking down his own kid at any point by any of the other characters. It's like, a hit and run. It might have come up, probably hasn't. Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that. Yes, I suppose that I just kind of go, well, in the context of the episode, he would feel guilty anyway that he had put this girl in a coma for 10 years. But yeah, if you couple that in with the fact that he lost his own son in very similar circumstances earlier in the series, basically this is just adding more and more to the trauma of Ed Straker, and you wonder how he's a functional human being at the end of the day.
Well, in all fairness, he's not really.
Yes, I suppose yes. In many ways, he's not.
So do you have anything else to add on the drugs front? Because it's kind of there. It's in the episode, but of course, I was going to say that you've got your illegal drugs, your hallucinogenics early on, but then you've got used by the aliens one type of drug on her, which induces the memory recall. And then by Shadow, they use a third type of drug on it, or the same one again.
Well, it's the same one again,
yeah. To try and to make it worse, which is eventually what burns her out.
Well, no, that's not what burns her out, is it? What burns her out is that the aliens have somehow transferred her life force to Tim to keep him alive.
Right.
Somehow.
Yeah, somehow.
Yes.
With the unrealistic Star Trek aging makeup.
Yes. Well, no, I know. I wasn't that a different actress entirely? It was a different actress in the bed, I think.
Yeah, well, no, but
I think it was the clause of Axos method of aging a character by putting a different actress
hiring somebody
in the
else.
role.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, it's odd because in the context of 3 episodes ago, we saw Shadow using a very similar drug on Lieutenant Anderson, going, "What were you doing in the dome?" and him going, "I wasn't in the dome," and then Jackson going, "Oh, the drug's infallible." Boom.
Yeah.
And so this feels slightly out of context, really.
Yes.
From that, because you're like, well, why can't they just use the same drug that they've used before?
But it's a recall drug, not a truth drug.
Oh yes, I suppose yes. Maybe it is different in that.
Yeah, as in it reorders all of your memories so you can experience them simultaneously. Oh, we're in Lovecraftian territory here.
Oh,
yeah. But So moving
But
on.
yes, so there's that aspect, and the very realistic portrayal, because I know a lot of TV shows from this era you would kind of have the needle going towards the skin and then they would cut away and the actor would wince. Whereas with this, they are actually properly poking. I mean, it's clearly a blunt prop, but they do a proper kind of plunge the needle into the skin, so the skin goes, and then cut away. So it's a much more real portrayal of being injected with a needle. But I mean, in terms of it's one of these things of like, I've never taken anything more serious than a pint of beer, or the very occasional cigar. So
not even done that.
Well, there we go. So to suggest that either of us knows anything about hallucinogenics.
Well, it's ridiculous. No, I've known in a long time ago. I've known some people who have partaken in stuff that I really didn't want anything to do with, and after I've seen them on it, I've just walked away and gone, absolutely not. There's certain illegal medication that just turns you into like Leslie Crowther. That was the joke at the time, in fact, because it was very incredibly bad taste. It was like medication like of that sort, illegal stuff. Turned you into Leslie Crowther before and after the accident. It turned you into such a game show host. It was awful to behold. I was like, if ever you needed to put someone off taking drugs, just show them someone on drugs and what a complete fool they look like. And I suppose that is a good thing about Instagram and the internet and people uploading photographs of their friends now. They just don't want to show themselves up and have the digital record out there anymore. Yeah. So perhaps that is a big enough argument against things. I just don't know. I'm old and I'm past it. I know nothing.
No, neither do I. But I suppose maybe you could say, well, is part of this episode going, don't take drugs, kids, because you might end up jumping off a roof and killing yourself.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's the druggy aspect of the story.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about the attempted rape?
Well, you know what? Let's, because it's just been on my screen and I didn't like any of it at all. It just was all. I mean, she's in a bad place. And you do see news about people being in a bad place and then they get attacked and end up in an even worse place.
Yes.
And that's... So I don't know if that's... I don't want to say the word realistic because that's not what a term I want to use about my escapist sci-fi. But... Yeah.
It just felt like they were over-egging the pudding.
Yeah, because she could have just been running from the aliens and then got hit.
She could have just been running. I suppose there's an element of going, they needed her to be far enough away from the farmhouse that it wasn't easy to work out where the farmhouse was.
Okay.
So you had to put her some distance away from the farmhouse when she got run over, which meant you had to have some other reason for her to be running into the road to get knocked down.
Got you. And that running over scene is
there's
really
that logic,
well shot.
But
yeah.
Which scene?
Where she actually gets hit by the car.
Oh, yes.
Where Straker hits her. It's incredible. You're like, whoa, that... You know, normally there's a way of doing it with cutaways and all sorts. And I'm like, that is really impressive, the way they did it.
Yes. Well, I mean, certainly the way that when Straker's son is knocked over in the question of priorities, that is terrible. It's and I guess that's partly just because you can't have a stuntman for an 8-year-old kid. In the way that you could have a stunt woman, or I don't know, it might have even been a stunt man dressed up as her to fall over the bonnet of a car.
I watched it frame at a time. It just looks really good.
Yes.
And it's a surprise. And you actually know she's going to be hit at some point in the storyline, and it still goes, you go, oh, right.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this is that moment, yeah. So I get the reason why the scene is there. I get the reason that they had to for the purposes of figuring out how to get her far enough away from the farmhouse so that they can't find the farmhouse, but also to then have her run over. You need some other reason for her to be running away at that point.
I can see the argument. It's just if it was me, I wouldn't have had, I don't want to even say the nerve, I wouldn't have been able to go down that road narratively and go and come up with that idea. And that probably is a failing on my part. But if I was writing it, I wouldn't have got there.
But like you say, this is still. I mean, there's still the main reason we're watching this is because it's slightly escapist, or in some cases, massively escapist sci-fi.
Yes.
And so when you have a moment like that, which is just down and dirty and could happen, right? Like hitchhiker gets picked up and then driver tries to rape her. That is potential reality.
This is when Fred West was doing that very thing.
Yes.
Yeah, it was the 70s when he was doing this.
Yes.
So, and that's not a great storyline at all.
Yeah, and I suppose you could have just very simply you could have had the UFO flies over at that point, couldn't you?
Yeah.
You could have had the UFO is not left Earth's atmosphere, and it happens and it flies over. She sees it again and then runs into the road. I mean that could equally have filled that narrative reason. And it would have been more UFO-y and...
actually, mind you though, now that I'm saying that out loud about the Fred West thing, it would have been in the news that hitchhikers were vanishing. So perhaps it would have been one of those, don't hitchhike things. Because in the 70s, people did hitchhike. And people just don't do it anymore now. So perhaps it was
very rarely.
It might have been something that you'd seen in the news going. So the writers might have gone, there's a storyline that's hitchhikers vanishing. That might be, putting two together. And does that make sense? Like they absorbed it from the back of their heads.
Yeah, it's possible. I just don't want to see that. That's the thing. I don't want to see that kind of thing in my escapist sci-fi.
Yes.
I mean, it's one of the reasons I'm not interested in Game of Thrones, because apparently there's a reasonable amount of sexual violence in it, and I'm like, I don't want to. To be
fair, right?
It might be that
with Games of Thrones, I've not seen it, right? Lots of other people have, but what I have done is read the books. Well, actually, what I've heard is I've heard Roy Dotrice read me the books. So there's two problems with that. One, he's now dead, and they haven't written the other books. Right, so he's not going to read any more to me, which is very upsetting. But another thing that's wrong with that is that an old man, because there's a lot less sex in the books, lot less, like a massive margin. What there is there's lots of fighting and there's lots of storyline, and there's too much description, far too much description. But I don't think Roy Dotrice telling you sexiness is the same as full frontal nudity on a TV in my head, if that's all right with the world. So,
fair enough.
I intended waiting until he'd written the rest of the books, and then possibly going, I might watch the series now and see how different it is, because I've heard it is quite different. And I'm thinking, well, do I just stick with the books if that's all right with everyone? We're coming across as old prudes, but you know what? We are. Let's just admit it. Well, I'm admitting
you're slightly
it myself.
Older than me.
Yes, I'm an exceptionally old prude.
Yes. Should we talk about that particular green on the drill, just as a complete different change of tack, right?
Yes.
So you know what I'm talking about? The drill that they try and drill into the bomb with, and it fails, right?
Right. The whole episode becomes a bit like an old Avengers episode where there's just a run around and some bomb disposal people.
We got to defuse the bomb, yes. And the colour of the drill, right? My dad had a drill that was that colour.
Right.
It's a sort of kind of dark greeny blue. And the minute I saw it, I was like, oh, right. The only other drill I've ever seen that was that colour was the one that my dad had.
Okay.
And I just wonder, was there an era in which they just made drills that were that colour?
Yes, because I think my dad had exactly the same drill. I think that was just a standard colour for hand drills. Drilling machines, as my dad would insist on calling them. A drill is the bit that fits in the front.
Ah.
And, yes, and engineers get very snooty about that. It's like when you work for Rolls-Royce and you have to call them Royces. It's that kind of thing. It's
or when you're talking about a train and you actually mean the train is actually the engine and all the carriages.
Yes.
But if you're just talking about the engine, it's a locomotive, not a train. Yes.
They get very snooty. But it's a bit of respect when you tell them, when you use the correct terminology. So Yeah, that's it. The lovely handheld drilling machines. And I remember them being that green as well. In fact, yeah.
I was going to say, because there's only one person on Doctor Who Watch, and I don't feel it's appropriate to, because this is our last episode, we should end with just more chat. Did you recognise the one person from Doctor Who that was in this episode?
Not. I do know who it is, but I did not recognise them.
No. Oh, you do know who it is, right? Because I didn't recognise him either. But once you know, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Go on then, Michael. Who is our final Doctor?
Who was the carcass?
And
a bomb disposal major. Hang on.
No. What was his other Doctor Who role?
Oh no, I've just got the carcass. What was his other one?
He's the camp cyber leader from Revenge of the Cybermen.
Excellent.
Yes.
Revenge of the
Cybermen.
No, not excellent. At all. No,
yes.
They've got weird voices.
We will fragmentize the planet. Yes, the hands on hips camp 70s cyber leader.
With his exploding 4 rounds rapid head.
Yes, yes, which are the best cyber heads, I feel, because you can't steal the weapon off them.
No.
Which I always felt was a plus to those Cybermen. But anyway, yes, he's the bomb disposal expert who, I don't know about you, but he sounds like he's been dubbed. Or he looks like he's been dubbed badly. But I think that is Christopher Robbie's voice. So maybe Christopher Robbie was just bad at overdubbing himself.
Makes sense.
I don't know. But he's the sort of kind of... what is it? What's the joke? He's like, if we get this wrong, bye-bye England. And you're like, you're taking this very calmly.
Oh, hang on. I've also got Alan Harris in Face of Evil.
Oh, that is not on my list.
Right,
who's Alan Harris?
I don't know where I've got that from.
Well, I'm going to have to look up IMDb now as we're chatting.
You absolutely are.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember him being in this at all, but Face of Evil, good story.
I feel that this has a much shorter cast, in terms of speaking cast list.
Yes.
There are much fewer speaking parts in this episode than normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Straker and his mate eventually find the old farmhouse, they find the bomb, he's about to set it off, his good old Tim the doctor, and that's basically it. And then you push the piece of plastic inside the other piece of plastic, because it's futuristic technology, and that makes things light up, hooray, and you twist a knob apparently that you can't see, and then Tim runs away. There you go.
And then he turns into a skeleton. Somewhat gruesomely.
Yeah. I think possibly that was the Star Trek aging effect I was thinking about. Because there's a lot of that sort of thing. There's a lot of that sort of thing in Space 1999 as well.
Well, I mean, in Doctor Who as well.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the demise of Kerensky in City of Death.
Theodore Nikolai
Kerensky. Oh. Have you read the novelisation of that?
The new one?
Yes.
I have not. I have it on my shelf. I have them all.
So James Goss is a genius because he writes that moment from Kerensky's perspective.
Right. I know
what
I'm reading.
It never occurred to me to think about what Kerensky's perspective on that moment was. But yes, read it, but definitely read that bit because you'll be like, oh gosh, yes. But yes, Alan Harris.
All of James Goss's books in the other room, all lined up next to my Douglas Adams as they all fade into each other.
Yeah, I got given Cricket Men and Scratch Man for my birthday, and I also had Pirate Planet on my list because it's the only other one that I haven't got. And I'm still awaiting a birthday present from somebody.
Yeah,
my brother-in-law. So it's possible that they've got me that as well. Anyway. That's a massive aside. While I'm trying to look up Alan Harris.
Really? Us doing massive asides. Did you find Alan?
No, I'm still looking for him. Yes, so he was in The Face of Evil and The Trial of a Time Lord in Doctor Who. Right. He was also in Star Wars and in Space 1999. And yes, he was in Killstraker and Destruction. So I suspect we've already covered him in previous episodes.
I'll explain it. We'll explain it.
Yes, there we go. Yeah, we did it. We did him in Killstraker, and he's not in this. So I don't know why you had him down.
Nope, neither do I. But he's written there.
He's written there.
But one day we will find out why.
Yes, and my father is called Alan Harrison, so very close to being my dad. Not.
Okay. Are we done?
I mean, it seems we've only been going for about.
No, I know we have. I'm just saying it.
Is there more to say?
I just don't know. Because, I mean, we could just do a summing up of how much we've enjoyed the series, because I really have. But as far as this episode's concerned, it's just, like you said, it's an alien plan that they just kind of abandoned. So the aliens might be going, oh, don't do that. I'll tell you what I did find weird. When he aged and when he went outside after reswitching the bomb on, there's a midpoint where he's wearing his 1970s clothes.
Yes, and then he dies.
And I don't get why at all. Is that just to make it really obvious to the audience, or?
I don't get that at all. Yes, that's a slightly odd.
Yeah. It's like
he's got odd moment.
It's Tom Baker's boots and shoes all over again, isn't it? When he regenerates. Yeah, so he's not regenerating, he's dying, but his clothes are changing form for no reason.
I suppose there's a sense in which it's visually representing that what's happened to him is that the extra 10 years of life that he has been given have been, because it is odd, isn't it? Because he technically his mission is complete once he's activated the bomb, right?
Yeah.
But he carries on going, escaping out of the farmhouse. He does that thing with his superhuman strength where he pushes both of them off him.
Yeah.
And then he goes outside, and it's only at that moment where there's a sort of relaxation and maybe almost relief as he collapses into the place where he originally died.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he's compelled to go back to that moment.
Yeah. I'll tell you what.
And then you go, okay, and now he's going back 10 years to his costume he was wearing when he died, and then he's a skeleton. So I suppose visually it makes sense in a sort of symbolic way, but narratively, like in the universe, it doesn't really make sense.
On the terrible bits of design front, the alien bomb is detonated by sunlight. Clearly, ultraviolet light activates the chemicals.
Yes.
Which is just weird, but makes sense logically. But it can be disarmed with a coat. Which you can imagine all those sort of 1980s IRA bombs planted all over the place, and a small little trundling robot running on a Commodore 64 going right up to it with a jacket and just throwing it over the top. And then leaving, going, it's all right, we're all safe now.
Well, okay, my feeling about that, because they still have to blast it into space, don't they?
Yeah.
So my feeling about that was that the light was what activated the detonator.
Yes.
And that by putting the coat over it, they were just slowing it down.
Oh, got you, yeah.
Because I think if it was just about stopping it, my thought would be that Straker would have kept the bomb for further analysis. Because that's the kind of person that Straker is, right?
Yeah.
So I think the fact that they then blast it into space is like, okay, no, this is just too dangerous. The process has already started. We've just slowed it down with a coat. Let's get it out of here just to make sure that it's okay. I mean, it's a risky thing to do, because if your rocket launch fails, then
you're having an explosion, but it's away from the ground. It's just
that's also bye England, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do we think about the final shot? Because although you could, because it isn't really a final episode of the series.
No.
In the sense that we have final episodes of series these days. I mean, to be honest, if you think about other Jerry Anderson shows, none of them ever got a proper.
No,
there wasn't a sense that a story was ending. It was just we've done a series of this show. You've had all these fun episodes, and some series went out in a more of a celebratory manner than others. Like we said, some of them did a clip show to kind of go, oh, here's the highlights of the show, and Joe 90's now a year older, and all that kind of stuff. But in most cases, you were like, well, the story just goes on, right? Like,
Got you.
International Rescue is going to keep rescuing people. Spectrum's going to keep fighting the Mysterons. Troy Tempest is going to keep fighting the undersea races that are bad. And Shadow is going to keep protecting the Earth from the aliens.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you kind of feel that that Virginia and Ed walking down a path away from the camera is only in this episode. It's only in this episode because they know it's going to be the final shot of the series, right?
Yeah, because somewhere the tea's getting called, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I wasn't going to make that parallel, but you've done it, so yeah. It is.
I will go for the obvious low-hanging fruit if that's all right with everyone. I will. I genuinely will. No, yes. I get it. So, arguably, if you want a final ending episode, this is it for that reason.
Yes.
It's got some small sense of closure. Yeah.
Interestingly, so along with all the transmission orders in the Bentley book, there is an ITC recommended order, which obviously doesn't correspond to the DVD or the Blu-ray order, because obviously this is the last episode in those orders, but it puts The Long Sleep as the penultimate episode in the recommended viewing order.
What does it finish with? Mindbender?
Time Lash.
Time Lash. Oh, right. Because if you've made it that far, you just want to watch it. Time Lash and...
Yeah, it basically reorders those last 4 episodes.
Right.
So you have... It goes 25, 23, 26, 24 in terms of production order.
Right.
And I don't know whether Time Lash is a more fitting end to the series or not. I can't think of another story that works any better as a final episode.
Yeah. Actually, just nipping back a tiny bit, the person who played Catherine, I've forgotten her name.
Yes.
Yeah. I had a memory of seeing her somewhere else. Do we know where we know her from?
She feels familiar, but I think when I looked her up, she wasn't. But I'm going to look her up again.
I had to. Maybe she just looks very similar to the woman from Man About the House, or something like that. I don't know. She was in 4 different episodes of Doctors, playing 4 different characters. That's her most recent credit. Oh, she's still going. That's brilliant.
Most recent credit 2015.
Right. That's good news.
She is 70. Well, she's just turned 71.
Okay.
If she's still alive. Yes. So she appeared in a few episodes of EastEnders 6 years ago. Seems to have had lots of bit parts in things. Robin's Nest.
Perhaps.
Do you know Robin's Nest?
I certainly do. It wasn't Man About the House. It was the spin-off Robin's Nest. She was the main character. Yes, I was right.
Victoria Tripp, apparently.
Yes, she was the wife of Robin Tripp from Robin's Nest, which was the spin-off from Man About the House, which was the English version of... I've forgotten its name, but it was the thing with the ropers in America, because that's what their spin-off was called, but ours was called George and Mildred. But they remade the whole series, and it was massive in the States. But there was...
Well, there you have it. I mean, yes, I'm not aware of any of that.
I knew her face. I know if you grew up...
So you knew her from somewhere else?
If you were my age, you'd know that. Yes, I knew her from a brilliant series, a very, very good comedy series. Well, actually, getting back to... Do you remember the O'Reilly people, the O'Reillys from...
the O'Reilly men from...
right.
Fawlty Towers.
Okay, well, him, Mr. O'Reilly, was the one-armed chef in Robin's Nest. Not chef, washer. Right? He had one arm in this, and I was surprised years later to see him have 2 arms. Because I thought they'd hired someone with 1 arm to play the part, and I thought that was really cool. And then I discovered later on, when he was in Waking Ned, that he had 2 arms. So there you go. That is a Roundabout Houses, nice little ramble.
Yes.
It's what you've paid your money for. It's what you get with us. Well, with me anyway.
There you go.
Yeah. Right, so I do know it from somewhere else, and that was there. That's fine. I'm happy now.
There you go.
I can sleep.
Yep.
Yes, so as an ending episode, works kind of ish. It works as well as any of the others would have. None of the major story arcs are in the way, and you've got Virginia Lake in it, which means it has to come at the end anyway, because of the production order.
Well, Yes, it does. But then, as we know from different regions broadcasting things in different orders, we know that if you watched it in any of those orders, you would just think that Alec Freeman and Virginia Lake kept coming and going as and when, and that they were both serving in shadow at the same time, and just sometimes one of them was away and the other one wasn't. Unlike if you watch them in production order, you have a distinct break where Freeman just disappears with no explanation whatsoever.
Yes.
Along with Keith Ford, who rocks, and this is what we have to tell people. Sad news.
I'd so forgotten that. No, that sounds like some sort of a death announcement. That's not the case. No. Sorry, no. Keith Alexander is very much still alive, as far as we are aware. The Keith Ford Rocks T-shirt has been taken down, but from Redbubble by ITC. Yes.
Some Jobsworth has been going around. But then, I didn't tell you this, Michael, the Ed Straker Destruct Negative T-shirt has been given their approval.
Right, because it's
not only did it get left up, and they clearly didn't recognise the Do Not Enter T-shirt as even being a UFO T-shirt, so they have not made any comment on that.
Excellent.
But I had an email from Redbubble going that ITC have approved your Destruct Negative Ed Straker T-shirt. So, and we haven't plugged the T-shirts for too long, so if you want, and there's always a link in the description on the website. So if you want a Destruct Negative Ed Straker T-shirt, profits from that go towards running the WordPress site for this podcast. And if we ever exceed that, then we'll make a donation to the Alzheimer's Society in memory of Jerry Anderson.
Definitely.
Yes, and we were going to make more T-shirts, which I don't know. You may still come up with your Moonbase pink hair T-shirt.
Oh,
if
you know what? I will get back on that one because I completely forgot about that one. What I really want to do is produce a T-shirt with lots of different science fiction identifiable fonts and typefaces that just say the words "bad fan," like the A would be from Star Wars and so on. All those. So
you have to. Have you got the UFO font?
No.
Oh, I need to send it to you. It's called Microgrammar D, and I use it all over the place now because I'm absolutely obsessed with it.
Right.
So if I can get away with using it in anything, I use it.
Excellent.
I also have a client at the moment, and I'm using Futura on his work. So every time I put one of his things up, it's like a 1970s Doctor Who title.
Excellent. It's nice to get those little subtle things in. Every script I've ever written has a subtle Doctor Who reference.
I also had I've done some really terrible work recently for a client, but they're basically putting screens in shops, and each person who puts a screen in their shop gets a short video to go on the screen, and then other small videos to go on videos in the network. Anyway, the last one I did was a hairdresser.
Yeah.
And they sent me a picture of the front of the shop, and I was like, why does that font look familiar? And then I realised it was the Deep Space Nine font.
Nice.
So I then got to use the Deep Space Nine font in the video.
Do you think the sign painter originally knew?
I don't. Somebody knows, but
like
whether it was the people that owned the shop or whether it was the person who designed the front of the shop, I don't know. Well, but I was just like, I know this from somewhere, and I thought Star Trek, and then I realised, no, it's Deep Space
specifically Nine. DS9. Yeah. So thank you for listening to the Fontcast.
Yes.
It's been great. No,
yeah.
I must admit. So, shall we thank everyone?
I mean, the UFO font is brilliant. I mean, you have to agree, Michael, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. To be fair, universally, this whole programme has been designed within an inch of its life. And as they say on the documentary, now, if you put the people in the same costumes and said it was a future, it would be completely acceptable. Ish. Well, I don't know, because the model work, everything just has been brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right.
For a first attempt at a live action thing, and I know that was more doppelganger, but no. For a TV series, it was right. Yes, we'd change things if we were making it now, but so what? You'd change everything if we were making it now.
Yes. Well, it wouldn't be set in 1980 for a start.
Well, in the distant future. No, I think you would definitely set it at the time it is now. Because that just makes it more exciting. That was...
Yeah. Because I think in hindsight, the let's set it 10 years in the future doesn't really work. Because I think they just predicted a whole bunch of things that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I still find the driving on the other side of the road thing a bit odd.
Well, to be fair, most of the time what they do is they drive down the middle. Just so that you don't feel bad.
But there was a scene when he comes up to the hospital where specifically he had to drive round the junction the wrong way. And you're like, in your head, you kind of like, I know that junction is set up specifically for British driving. And so the fact that he's driving it round it on the other side of the road, you just go, I know that this is artifice. And it pulled me right out of the story for a brief moment.
Well, you have to remember that Ed was actually banned from driving at this point legally, the actor.
Yes, he was. I know, yes.
Which I think's brilliant. It was like, I'll just do this bit of a stunt work. Who's driving this car? Looking the other way. Yes. According to the Bentley book, Ed was given the wristwatch that he wears as Ed Straker,
right,
to keep. And I think he might have been buried in it because he loved it so much. And I do keep looking on eBay to see if I can find one the same, because it is such a nice watch.
But you haven't yet found one.
Not yet, but I will.
You will.
I will, because I like watches. Right, I think that's the end of the UFOcast. In this format.
In this format, yes. So we said last week that we're not doing Space 1999, or at least...
If we do, it's not for a long time.
If we do, it's not for a long time.
It's not for the 20th anniversary of the moon leaving.
We are definitely going to do The Prisoner at some point. But again, we're going to have a bit of a break right now. Yeah. So we would just say, if you want to hear a Space 1999 podcast... do one yourself.
And I will listen. I will honestly listen.
Yeah. And I might even watch the show.
Yeah, that's true. Right, that's for the future. You know what? If you suddenly find that you're watching the show and you enjoy it, or you want to take the mick, then call me up and I will do it with you. Right? That is not a problem. Right?
Yes.
They might be much shorter podcasts than this. They're not going to come in about an hour. I'll tell you that for nothing.
Yes. The main problem, and you guys already know this, is that Michael and I have had a lot less time to put these together, which is why it's taken us until now to finish this off. Yes. And I've just taken on a new job. And so you're just about to take on a new job. And so, trying to find time to do this is going to be slim. So rather than try and start something new and then fall at the first hurdle, we will keep this. I mean, the website's not going anywhere, so you're always going to be able to watch the episodes. Listen to the episodes. They're all still on YouTube on my channel. They're all still on YouTube on Michael's channel. So you can relive the UFOcast again and again. You can still email us.
I don't have as many subscribers as you by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, anyway, we will fail to respond to your emails as we have done throughout. We may eventually get together at some point in the future and do a fabled feedback episode where we get through all of your messages and texts and comments and emails and talk about them. But we're not going to promise that, are we, Michael?
You know what? No. But no, because I wanted to do at least one podcast where we rank all of the episodes in order, where I'll come up with a list and you come with a list and we'll see what we come up with. That's just a personal thing. That is a suggestion. The feedback episode, very nice idea. And I actually did record me reading all of the emails out that had been sent, so that we could just cut back to that. So that existed. I'm quite willing to do it again. I've already put in the legwork, right? So a feedback episode is not that daft an idea, because so if you have got any thoughts, you can email any of the addresses involved. Let me see, what's the UFOcast's address?
I can't remember. I think it's ufocast@yahoo.com.
There are links on the website. Or you can even use the tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. That email address is not going anywhere.
Yeah, you can even, and even though Tmudwup doesn't exist anymore, you can still email min_dw@yahoo.co.uk, because that email address is still active.
There's even the Twitter account.
There, you can go to the Twitter account @UFO_cast.
Yep. Your Twitter address is?
@LukeOverthinks. And yours is?
@TinDogPodcast, all one word.
Yes. So do keep interacting with us. Yes. We will try and interact back. I know we've been terrible at that throughout the show.
Yeah. We've been uniformly, we've done it. We've not been good or bad at it. We've just uniformly been bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people have enjoyed watching or listening to us, so I've enjoyed it. I'm sure you have. Is there anybody you'd like to thank at this point?
To be fair, apart from Jerry Anderson, of course, and I will be contacting the Jerry Anderson podcast to ask Jamie about this drug use thing, because I really want to know. And I'd like to point everyone in the direction of that podcast if they don't hear it, because it's got some great Anderson stuff in general, and as well as some stuff about Firestorm. I'd like to thank you, definitely, for persevering with it, when we could so easily have just given up the ghost. But also kept Mr. Bentley for the book, because that's been invaluable.
It has,
yeah.
Yes.
Also, and I can't remember the author of it, but the person who's provided all of the absolutely terrible synopsises. That's the Box Tree book. Box Tree episode guide to Space 1999 and UFO.
Those have kept us entertained with their selective nature. I'd like to thank you, Michael, for joining me on this odyssey. When I suggested it, I didn't know whether you were going to say yes or no, so thanks for coming along. I'd definitely like to thank Kurt Metz. We've thanked him many times before, but given that he delivered the last huge batch of covers for this podcast such a long time ago, I'm going to thank him again.
And I
lovely. Think what I might try and do is put all of the ones that we haven't used up on a separate post on the website. So look out for that. That is a nice
idea.
So thank you, Kurt. You didn't have to do it. We were coming up with terrible covers of our own when we started, and you came in and said, I can do this better, and we said, of course you can. And thank you very much. So you have enhanced the visual look of the podcast no end. And also we would like to thank Andrew Smith, who joined us possibly about a year ago now. It's been that long since we did it.
It really has.
Joined us for Subsmash and The Sound of Silence. Check out his Big Finish and Doctor Who work if you have not seen that before.
If you haven't, you're mad. Go ahead and do it. Right,
and
I think that's
certainly if they ever got the rights to do UFO on Big Finish, he would have to write an episode.
Well, his work
be script editor.
Cops has been fantastic, so I can't see it being in bad hands at all. Yes, so please, Big Finish, just you know you want to. You've got Jamie Anderson around. He'll possibly have a bit of an input on that one. It'll all be all right. Just do get Wanda Ventham in to run Shadow. Get Shadow to come back. She could run it. Right, there are sound-alikes. I've pointed them out with Big Finish. If you need to get Edge Taker's character back, right, it's really not a problem. Okay, in fact, have me on as an executive producer, and I'll just find all the people for you. That'll be fine. But yeah, get Andrew Smith to do it so that I can sit back and enjoy it, just listening to it. Because I'm reasonably creative, but not as creative as everyone else. But yeah, that's what we want. We want UFO from Big Finish, and it'll all be all right.
Yep. So on that note...
Yes. My name is Michael. Be seeing you.
I'm Luke. Be seeing you.